Hi, I'm Bill Berry. My friend Robert Marcos and I are once again looking for tracks in our Southern California deserts. Searching the California desert for tracks can be very emotional. Signs of death can be found all over our deserts and surrounding mountains. In this episode, we'll look at the tragic tracks left by three men who lost their lives in a sudden and violent impact on our desert floor. It was snowing on the afternoon of March 21, 1987, when Dean Paul Martin Jr. and his weapons officer Ramon Ortiz took off in their F4 Phantom from March Air Force Base. They were flying in formation with two other jets. At 1:50 p.m., shortly after takeoff, Captain Martin's fighter jet slammed into Mount San Gorgonio at 560 miles per hour, killing both men instantly. Anytime you engage in a search for military air wreckage, you must prepare yourself for the emotions evoked by such sites. Most of these sites are difficult to find and hard to access, and when you do find them, you have to deal with the results. Loss of life, tragedy for families, and visions of committed soldiers who paid the ultimate price. It took us a while, but we finally were able to get a copy of the accident report containing the GPS coordinates of the Martin-Ortiz crash site. We used Google Earth to pinpoint the location on Mount San Gorgonio and planned to drive as close as we could to the site and hike in. Neither one of us expected to fail in our efforts to get to the site. The terrain is very rugged and bounded by the Morongo Indian Reservation. I called the reservation for permission to hike in and was refused. So we decided to fly the drone as close as possible to the site to get some sense of what it looked like. We didn't expect to see much since several reports indicated that the site had been cleaned up by the military. We were able to get good long-distance footage of the crash, but we're not able to see any real details.
Dean Martin Jr. was the apple of his father's eye. He was handsome, athletic, and according to members of the Air National Guard Squadron, he was also a very capable pilot. At 35 years of age, Dean Jr. had already been married twice. He married Olivia Hussey in 1971 and Olympic gold medalist Dorothy Hamill in 1982. He was a singer, had performed in a movie with Ali MacGraw, and had even played tennis at Wimbledon. But Dean Martin Sr., who was almost 70 at the time of his son's death, was devastated.
We really wanted to see a site where the impact was close to the speed of sound. Robert told me about a Vought F8 Crusader that had crashed in 1968 in the Southern California desert, and we decided to see if we could locate that site. So we're here following my friend Robert, trying to find the crash site of this plane that went down in the 60s. We've made a couple of wrong turns, but I think it's going to be okay. We're almost there. On November 2, 1968, Lieutenant Michael Casey Emmett was practicing combat tactics over the desert near Borrego Springs with an instructor leader observing from another jet. He was flying a Vought F8 Crusader, which was the hottest thing the Navy had at the time. During a maneuver, something went wrong. The instructor leader said he observed Michael's airplane in a spin at 10,000 feet, and he called out, "Eject, eject, eject!" But there was no response. Reports speculated that Lieutenant Emmett may have been struggling to recover from the spin, or he may even have been unconscious. The instructor leader said when he struck the ground, he was vertical, and the wreckage blew down the draw. The jet was spread over a 300-yard area down the ravine, and very little of the wreckage was recognizable as the sleek and sophisticated Vought F8 Crusader. We hiked into the site and were stunned by what we found. Lieutenant Emmett's plane had crashed into the ravine at about the same speed as Captain Martin's, giving us a good perspective of what happens to a jet when it hits the ground with such velocity. It felt like we were at a veteran's grave site. and we did our best to be respectful of the importance of this consecrated ground. This must have been what the Martin-Ortiz site looked like right after their crash. There was no evidence of fire because the impact vaporized the fuel so quickly that it really could not ignite. Captain Martin was piloting the No. 2 aircraft in a flight of 3 when he and his weapons officer took off. The 3 planes made a maximum performance climb through multiple layers of clouds and falling snow. Much of the time it was not possible to maintain visual contact, so the formation was maintained with radar. According to reports, the flight leader requested to climb to a higher altitude to get clear of the clouds, but air traffic control was not able to authorize that because of the large volume of civilian traffic above them. Martin was unable to maintain formation, and knowing that mountains were near, he requested a left turn. The controller authorized the turn but had to repeat himself several times due to frequency congestion. The pilot of the No. 3 aircraft briefly caught sight of Martin's Phantom through a break in the clouds and saw him begin a sharp left roll along with afterburner ignition just before his jet disappeared into the clouds again.
Well, I never had the opportunity to see him live, but we certainly did listen to his music and still do. For all of us, it was sad. It was on TV, all the newspapers. It was a very tragic thing for, he had a child and his brothers and sisters, and for all of us, it was sad.
Dean Martin Jr. joined the Air Force to make something of himself and to make a meaningful contribution. He wanted to be more than Dean Martin's son or an entertainer. The crash on Mount San Gorgonio is a sad end to a noble venture.